Sustrans interviews the candidates for the West Midlands mayoral elections 2021.
Hi, I'm Liam Byrne. I'm the MP for Hodge Hill and Labour's Shadow Mayor for the West Midlands.
My name is Steve Caldwell. I'm the Leader of the Opposition on Solihull Council, and I am the Green Party's candidate to be the next Mayor of the West Midlands.
Hello there. I'm Andy Street, and I'm the current Mayor of the West Midlands and also the Conservative candidate for the next mayoral term.
Hi, I'm Jenny Wilkinson. I'm the Liberal Democrat candidate for West Midlands Mayor.
From our Bike Life report, we know that just under a third of West Midlands residents would like to cycle but don't. What will you do to address that? Sustrans publish Bike Life every 2 years. It is the biggest assessment of cycling in urban areas in the UK and Ireland. Information in this report comes from local cycling data, modelling and an independent survey of residents in the West Midlands in 2019.
So here in the West Midlands, the place that actually invented the bike and was one of the great hubs of making bikes not so long ago, we've today got the highest unmet cycling need of almost anywhere in the country. So that is a problem. So we need to do three things to change that. One, we need to set the right level of ambition. So I want the West Midlands to lead Green Britain. I want us to become the first net zero carbon city region in the country. That means going net zero carbon, mid 2030s, thereabouts. So my mandate for the transport system will be help us achieve that ambitious goal. So getting the goals right and ambitious, that's step one. Step two is then we will need to do like a zero-based review of all of our spending after the election to basically work out what money can be flexed in to cycling and active travel. So I would like to double cycling levels in the next couple of years. And I'd like to sign up to this target of by 2030, about half of all journeys within cities being by bike or on foot. So making sure that we've got the right investment in active travel is really important. And then we will need advisors to help us along the way and really make sure that we've got a proper conversation with residents, but also with cyclists, so that we're constantly learning about where things need to be improved. So the idea of an active travel commissioner is a really good one. That's something that I'll appoint to make sure that we're just constantly refining, ironing out problems with all the routes, because as anyone knows who's cycled around the West Midlands, you often find yourself with nice stretches that are all quite good, and then just complete nightmares that are so dangerous that no one would ever want to go near them. So we've just got so many kind of snagging problems that we need to sort out to make sure that we've got routes that are safe enough for people to want to go on them.
I think a lot of the challenge that we have around encouraging walking and cycling is that actually the environment that we live in isn't really set up very well for that. If you look at a lot of, for instance, the cycle routes through the West Midlands Combined Authority, they're not very high quality. They don't encourage safe use, and they feel a bit like an add-on to the road network. So we need, I think, a long-term plan to increase walking and cycling, and it's good that there is a target that's been set by central government for 50% of journeys in towns and cities to be by active travel by 2030. For me, it's a question of you have to make it safer. That means better quality infrastructure. That means truly segregated cycle routes. That means things like giving cyclists priority over drivers at junctions. It means slowing down traffic where there are cycle routes so that people can move more safely. And it also means keeping our pavements in good condition so that people are safe walking along them. It's easy for me as someone who's relatively fit and healthy to avoid the cracks, to avoid the potholes. But for people who, for instance, may be differently abled or visually impaired, that can make a real difference to how they use their built environment. So I think there's a lot of things that we need to do, but we need to start with reimagining how we want to get around.
So I was there when the Bike Life report was actually launched. So I know this is a real issue, that there's an enthusiasm to cycle, but there's a sort of barriers to it. So I guess the answer is threefold, really. Number one, We will bring in the bike share scheme or the bike hire scheme across the region very, very quickly now. It's already launched in Sutton, extended to Wolverhampton. We're going to see it in Coventry very shortly, and actually across all boroughs by July. And what that will mean is for people who perhaps they can't afford or indeed store a bike, that they'll be able to go to an easy docked place and pick up a bike and cycle that way. The second way is, of course, that a lot of people would use their bike as part of a public transport journey. We hear this all the time, but we need to make bike provision, both at our stations and indeed in workplaces, really much better. It's why we're investing big time at New Street and at all of our new stations and upgraded stations. We improve our cycling facilities there as well. So integrating cycling in with a public transport journey is another easy way of breaking through barriers. But perhaps the most important way of all is, of course, to provide more safe cycle routes, because we know it's the safety aspect that puts a number of would-be cyclists off. So, of course, what we're doing there, we've already committed to the funding, to all the design work for the next segregated route, which will be in Coventry, actually, at Binley Road. And what we will then be doing is colouring in our target Starley network, as we call it, 500 miles of cycling routes. There are about 270 miles at the moment, so many more to come, adjacent to sprint routes, for example, in Birmingham, alongside the metro in the Black Country, and indeed some of the Towns Funds bids now have also included new cycle routes, so steadily improving the amount of safe, protected cycle routes.
It's interesting because I'm actually one of these third of West Midlands residents who's in this position. I've actually just given up my car this week. I'm not sure whether that's going to be a long-term arrangement yet, but as a consequence of that, I'm really looking at how I myself get around the region, and cycling is obviously something I'm keen to do, but personally, the challenges I find with that are mainly safety. Mainly the safety worries about busy roads. Also, probably my own confidence as a cyclist. I haven't really cycled much since my teenage years, which is clearly quite a long time ago. So I think a real key priority to actually enable active travel and to reduce reliance on cars is to just make it just easier and more accessible to be able to cycle. And I think investment in infrastructure is really key part of that. So it's not just about shoehorning a sort of poorly planned cycle lane on the side of a short stretch of road. It's got to be planned and integrated into the whole transport network. So I want to see dedicated, safe cycling lanes away from motor vehicles and away from pedestrians as well. A sort of network of off-road commuter and leisure cycle routes so people can get to where they want to go. Looking at speed limits in urban areas to reduce speed limits to make it safer, and also looking at junctions and making those cycle priority junctions instead of focusing so much on cars. And also storage as well. So storage when you get to your destination for cycles. So there's quite a lot to do, I think, in terms of actually making our transport network cycle friendly and pedestrian friendly as well. And I actually think, as I was saying, you know, it's about confidence and knowledge about cycling and safe cycling. So I think there's a training aspect as well for people to actually help people learn and have the skills to build their confidence so they feel more comfortable with cycling.